The Greedy Son Part 2. If you enjoy the twists and turns in Part 2, be sure to watch Part 1. In the wake of Mr. Thompson's passing, the Thompson household continued to be shrouded in an atmosphere of grief and discord. The rain-soaked town, once a picturesque haven, mirrored the commotion within the family. Mrs. Thompson, with a heavy heart, faced the challenge of not only mourning her husband but also navigating the storm of her son Richard's greed. Unaware, Richard observed a figure of grace and kindness enter the scene. Grace, the daughter of the Thompsons' longtime business partner, arrived at the family home with an air of elegance that seemed to dissipate the lingering darkness. Her eyes, pools of empathy, reflected the sorrow that enveloped the Thompson household. "Mrs. Thompson," Grace began, offering a gentle smile, "I'm truly sorry for your loss. My father and I were devastated to hear about Mr. Thompson. He was not only a business partner but a dear friend." Mrs. Thompson, touched by Grace's genuine compassion, welcomed her into the subdued living room. As Richard observed this exchange, an unfamiliar emotion tugged at the corners of his conscience. Grace, radiant and compassionate, presented a stark contrast to his own demeanor. A few years ago Mr. Thompson became aware of Richard's intentions through discreet observations and subtle cues in his behavior, prompting a realization of the need to take precautionary measures for the future. Without Richard's knowledge, Mr. Thompson had taken precautions to protect the family heritage. In the midst of the emotional turmoil, Mrs. Thompson revealed her late husband's will. Richard's eyes widened in disbelief and indignation as the contents unfolded. Mr. Thompson, fully aware of his son's greed, had left all of the estate to his wife, ensuring a secure future for her. However, the twist that intensified Richard's fury was the provision that, upon Mrs. Thompson's passing, the estate would pass to Grace. "You can't be serious, Mother. This is preposterous," Richard erupted, his face contorted with rage. "How could Father betray me like this? And to leave everything to her?" He pointed an accusing finger at Grace, who remained composed despite the storm brewing in Richard's words. Mrs. Thompson, her voice a mixture of sadness and determination, addressed her son, "Richard, your father knew the importance of preserving the values that defined this family. Grace is not an outsider, she's been a part of our lives for years. Your father believed in her kindness and integrity." Grace spoke up. Mr. Thompson valued fairness and kindness. He saw beyond the surface, understanding that wealth is not just measured in material possessions. "I am committed to honoring his legacy and supporting your mother through this difficult time." Fueled by a storm of emotions, Richard bolted out of the room in a frenzy. His threats to Grace and his mother were laced with anger, accusing them of betraying him and making it clear that Grace was unwelcomed. The air crackled with tension, starkly contrasting the values his father had cherished. As the words hung in the air, the rain outside began to relent, as if nature itself acknowledged the shifting dynamics within the Thompson home. The room, once fraught with tension, now bore witness to a clash of values: greed versus compassion, entitlement versus fairness.